Good afternoon, everyone. Osio Nagadawu. We are just getting started today with Chef Tawnya Brant. So I'd like to welcome her today. All right. And it looks like we're all ready to go. All right, all of our videos working, all of our audios working. Good afternoon, everyone. Osio Nagadawu. Welcome to the second video in our Resilience Recipes Native Foodpreneurs Cooking Demonstration Series. Galieli ga Jijadoa. Dr. Courtney Lewis Dagwadoa, Jijalagi. I'm Dr. Courtney Lewis. I'm a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. I'm the current Andrew W. Mellon Visiting Professor of Justice, Equality, and Community in Anthropology at Davidson College. I'm also a professor at the Department of Anthropology and Institute for Southern Studies at the University of South Carolina. Before we start today, though, I want to acknowledge that it is Memorial Day in the United States. This is a federal holiday honoring the people who have died while serving in the US military. Today, we have approximately 140,000 veterans and 31,000 active duty American Indian and Alaskan Native people serving. And American Indian and Alaskan Native peoples do serve at a higher percentage rate, that is 5 times higher than any other population in the United States. They also have the highest percentage of women serving. If you would like to learn more about the hundreds of years of American Indian military service, along with the memorial that is currently being planned for those who have served, please visit the Smithsonian website at americanindian.si.edu. This link will be posted on our website too under resources. Today, we are excited to bring to this series Chef Tawnya Brant, whose appearance is made possible by the Justice, Equality, and Community Initiative at Davidson College, which is generally funded by the Mellon Foundation. Chef Tawnya is a citizen of the Mohawk Nation, raised in her home community of 6 Nations of the Grand River, which also is the largest First Nations reserve in Canada. She grew up in a kitchen filled with Indigenous harvests and wild game, and she landed her first job as a line cook at a small cafe at the young age of 12. She has since worked in the restaurant industry for the past 24 years. She's also completed 2 years of culinary management at Fleming College and graduated from the Aboriginal Small Business Management Program at Mohawk College. Chef Tawnya has spent over a decade as a freelance support chef before being able to move to her current focus on Indigenous foods and catering. She then founded Yowego Foods as a focus on Haudenosaunee culinary roots. You can find Chef Tanya's links and information together all on our website. So today, Chef Tawnya has created a video just for us. She's going to be walking us through one of her recipes, a delicious dish of turkey breast with blue corn and wild rice succotash stuffing. After this video, we will have a live Q&A period. We'll be taking your questions through the YouTube chat window, so feel free to type your questions along the way. If you do feel comfortable, you can let us know your name, where you're located, if you're a student, faculty, staff member, alumni, community member. We'd love to know who's participating with us today. So welcome, Chef Tawnya, and thank you for being with us here today. How are you?
Mego, hi, I'm good. Interesting day today, but it's good.
Yeah, interesting times, but an interesting day for you as well, it sounds like.
I had a whole mouthful to tell her before we even started.
So can you tell us a little bit about this dish you're preparing before we launch into the video? So what in particular makes this an Indigenous dish or a Haudenosaunee dish?
So yeah, I definitely wanted to focus on Haudenosaunee foods. I was very honored that you'd asked me to prepare something for your food series, and yeah, I wanted to definitely do Haudenosaunee foods. Something like a turkey. I wanted to do turkey. People kind of think it's not the seasonal thing to do, but the reason why I did turkey is we're in the middle of our turkey hunting season right now. So there's turkeys everywhere. You look everywhere. You see them out in the field.
Right? Oh, that's great.
That was definitely one of the reasons why I wanted to do turkey and do it right now. I feel like it's a bit of a forgotten food in terms of indigenous food. I think a lot of people forget because it is also a domesticated bird and you can buy it commercially, that we kind of forget where it comes from. And I wanted to show just how like it's from here, and just remind people it's a good meat. You don't got to eat it just on Christmas or Thanksgiving. So and because it's a big game bird, it's the biggest bird that we would have hunted. You can just do so much with it, and it provides a lot of meat. And the stuffing, I wanted to do a succotash because that's kind of a classic Haudenosaunee dish, or any Eastern Woodlands Indians in this area have their own dish like that. And it's really something like, it was funny because I asked my mom before, I was kind of like, I've had succotash, but like, what is it?
Right.
And the reason I didn't know, because she was like, it was like, that's the clean the fridge out dish, right? Like whatever you have, whatever vegetables, fruits, whatever you're gonna put in, just throw in there, empty out the fridge is a good way to get rid of those foods. So I was kind of like, well, what is it? Because I've never had it twice the same time, right? Growing up. So I researched that a little bit more, and just about its importance with early European settlers, and how that was an introductory food for them. And something that they would have definitely survived on, especially you think like 17th century and stuff. So blue corn that I picked in the dish is a blue flint corn from Akwesasne. My friend Maria grew it, and I got it from her. She gifted it to me after doing a seed keeping talk in Tyndanega. So I've been using it sparingly. And
that's a great gift.
Yeah, I get so excited when people give me food. So the wild rice that's in it, I just picked that up from a local provider. She got it from Saskatchewan, so I was happy to use that in some of the products. The fiddlehead and ramps that I use, I also got from her as well. Yeah. So I'm encouraged by that, knowing that in my community, people are interested in getting those foods, bringing them in and using them, right? So exactly. I'm happy to purchase from local suppliers as much as I can. Which is a little different from me, because I'm used to basically growing like everything. Yeah. Like if I want to use it, I need to plan a year ahead, because I need to know what I think I'm going to use. And my mom owns Mohawk Seed Keepers Garden, so she definitely helps. She gets she's kind of like, well, what do you want? Okay, we'll plan. All right, show when we plant, right? So I'm just the laborer and tell her what to plant, and she organizes everything. But yeah, so it's a good system. It works. It helps her, benefits me, and it's been going good. And yeah, I guess that was I called it a stuffing because I wanted it to be something that kind of comes together, and I wanted to do it a little different. I didn't just want a baked bird. And even the day of, I was kind of changing with what it was I wanted to do, and I decided to do the whole front end and stuff, and you'll see that in the video. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I try to think of all local ingredients that would have been available to our people, since time immemorial, and I think they definitely got that in this dish.
And I think it showcases the versatility as well of indigenous foods, right?
Definitely
the succotash. Yeah.
Just throw whatever in there, it'll work.
Exactly. Well, I have seen a preview of this video, so I am really excited to just dive in and start showing it. So what we're going to do is go ahead and get started. We're going to show your video, and then for our viewers, stick around, because we will be taking your questions as the video goes along, and then we will have a live Q&A with Chef Tawnya when the video concludes. So please stick with us. And for now, enjoy the turkey breast with blue corn and wild rice succotash stuffing.
them learning about new foods in the Americas and how to work those into their diet and how it was going to benefit them nutritionally and sustain them. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to make this stuffing. I'm calling it a stuffing because it's going to go inside of the turkey. I really want to stay away from traditional like Thanksgiving flavors. So you're going to see a little bit of different product that I'm going to put into the stuffing. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to have beans. So I'll throw them on here. These are just white pea beans. So those are the beans. I already softened those up last night. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to make this stuffing. I'm calling it a stuffing. Sego bueno. So, hi, Davidson College. My name is Chef Tawnya Brant. I am from Ontario. We're about an hour south of Toronto. So I'm really excited that Davidson College asked me to do a little cooking demo and a Q&A session for you today. So I'm really looking forward to that. So I decided to pre-record because what I'll be making takes some time to cook in the oven, and I didn't know if we would have that time to do on camera. So you don't want to rush perfection. So I'm happy to make this video for you, and I look forward to seeing us during the Q&A, and I hope you have lots of questions. So today we're going to be making is a Hasselback turkey breast. And I'm going to make what I'm calling a blue corn succotash stuffing. So what a succotash is traditionally for Eastern Woodlands Indians was a very big staple in their diet. So it's kind of like a dish, almost like a stir fry, not quite a soup, and generally made out of corn as the principal grain. In season, definitely would be fresh corn or green corn is what we call it. Some type of beans, onions, things like that, where it would just make a nice little soup and one pot wonder. It's easy to make, camping over a fire with one pot type of meal. So it was really a good staple for Haudenosaunee people. And it was also a very important dish for early Europeans that came. It was one of the popular dishes that was taking on with them learning about new foods in the Americas and how to work those into their diet and how it was going to benefit them nutritionally and sustain them. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to make this stuffing. I'm calling it a stuffing because it's going to go inside of the turkey. I really want to stay away from traditional like Thanksgiving flavors. So you're going to see a little bit of different product that I'm going to put into the stuffing. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to have beans. So I'll throw them on here. These are just white pea beans. So those are the beans. I already softened those up last night, so they're good and ready to go. Next, I'm going to put some wild rice into it. Normally, this wouldn't be in a succotash. I'm just hoping because they're all big pieces that this will help when it's kind of binding. So I want it to kind of stick together when you cut into the turkey breast after. So I'm hoping this will help it do that. And also, it's super nutritious for you. And it's a superfood, but I think all of our foods are superfoods. Science hasn't caught up with it yet to tell us all the wonderful things that we already know, but I'd like to have it in the science word there. So this was a blue corn. The color changed a bit once it went through the nixtamalization process. So I lied this. You just lye it in an alkaline solution and it puffs up a bit, breaks off the hull. And then I boiled it a little bit more, so it's cooked almost all the way through. It's not too, I didn't want to too overcook it because it's going to cook in the turkey as well. So that's going to be good. So those are the three big main components of our stuffing that we're going to have. Something else I'm going to add, these are just some seasonings. I made, it's ramp season, so I made a fresh ramp salt. I dehydrated some ramps, broke those up, put a little bit of sea salt with it and whipped it up, and that's what you'll see in there. Some oregano, I like to use oregano. I wanted to still have some flavors, but not traditional turkey flavors like poultry seasoning, sage, things like that. This actually here is brown hazelnut flour, and that to me, I'm hoping to help because it will be gluten-free and I don't want to add bread or anything like that. I'm hoping that will also help bind the stuffing later on. And now I'm going to cut up some stuff to go in it as well. So what I have here are some chanterelles. These are from my friend out in, I was out in Wisconsin and he grows them. So I was really happy he came and gave me this big jar and I was just so amazed. I was like, yes. So I'm going to rough chop those. It's going to be a nice little color, punch of color in the stuffing. So I just like this really nice goldeny color that the chanterelles are, and they keep their color during the cooking process, so that's nice too. So we got these nice pieces here. Okay. That in there. And I also did these, so because I said it was ramp season, so I took the bulbs and I did a quick pickling on them. These ones are actually pickled with sweetgrass, so it has that little bit of like aromatics that you get. So it's definitely vinegary from the base. I'm going to take about maybe 3 or 4. And then it finishes with that classic sweetgrass taste. If you don't know what sweetgrass is, it's a grass that's local to our area. It's very fragrant, almost aromatic, really like perfumey kind of smell. So it actually transfers into our foods really well. And it's also one of our four sacred medicines. So it's really important to a lot of indigenous people in different areas. And I like to utilize it because it gives amazing flavors to food. I actually have to a lot of time really decide what it is I'm going to put it into, because you only want to have maybe that flavor once in a meal or something. But I really love working with sweetgrass. So these, I'm just pulling them apart a bit. I want them to be whole in the stuffing. So broke those up a bit. So those are our ramp bulbs that we're putting in there too. One roll away on me. So this is all I'm going to put into the stuffing. What I'm also going to do is put some egg in there. So I'm hoping that it's going to help bind with heat. I'll have to grab a spoon because I didn't have one out. I just have to use my hands. But I'm just going to throw the egg right in then in that case. We'll see how it goes. So I'm just breaking that up, mixing it around. Then I'm going to take this and set it aside, and we're going to get the turkey out. You want to dry the turkey really well so it has its form. I have the whole turkey breast, and I debone the turkey breast. So yeah, I think that's good with one. And that's going to be our blue corn succotash stuffing. All right, we're back. I cleaned up a bit of my mess here. So now we're going to work on the turkey breast. So first, before I get started, I want to talk about this beautiful plate here. I'm going to make my own rub for the turkey breast. So I'm kind of doing a play on like barbecue flavors with this one. What I have in this plate here is some more oregano and some more of the ramp salt, because I want to tie in those flavors with the stuffing. This one here is some ground wild onion, and this is a smoked paprika. That's from Sakari Farms. And cumin, and this is a red ground chili pepper. I got that just traveling in New Mexico, so it has a lot of flavor, a little bit of spice to it, so I think it'll give it a nice contrast. This one is a smoked pinon salt, so I like the idea of that little bit of smokiness in there and the earthy flavors. This here, just for a little bit of sweetness, is maple sugar. So we're going to mix all of these together, and that's what's going to be our rub for the top of the turkey breast. And I'm going to put a little bit on the inside too. You really want to season all your stuff well, so we can mix those up. And this is going to be our seasoning for our turkey. So I like doing my own spice rubs. For me, this is really an opportunity to highlight a lot of the ingredients that I get just traveling to different areas. Like, there's stuff in here from Oregon, behind my house, New Mexico, Michigan. So like that's something that's really, it's really fun to talk about with indigenous cuisine. Doing that in North America and talking about a lot of these things that you see a lot of the rest of the world talk about, these areas and where things come from. And there's not much information about that for North America and for indigenous peoples and for our diets. So it's something that I particularly enjoy being a chef, learning about the ingredients, where they come from, and what new flavors we can get out of them when we're cooking. So good. And a little bit of the chili, a little bit of the ramps. So here's the turkey breast I got here. Actually, I took a whole turkey and I cut off the whole turkey like breast section of it, and I did debone it as well. You could leave the bone in; it would be nice. a great flavor if you cut it in half. If you cut the turkey breast in half, you can have two and then slice along and Hasselback them, like stuff them like that. But I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, I just want to go for one nice big thing. So I cut the front wings off the turkey and then just followed like the skin along the edge. And then you have to kind of break it off the back part way. I didn't have much room, so I didn't know if I could get all that on film. So this is it. It will fold out nice. And we're gonna stuff that with our stuffing. But like I said, I wanted to get some of the seasoning in here as well because we want that to permeate all of the turkey and give it that nice little bit of smokiness and chilliness and goodness. So nice here. Okay, so that should be good. So without making a mess, I'm gonna add my little bit of my stuffing in here. Maybe I should do that as nice as I don't know how much it's gonna hold, but I can make quite a bit of stuffing. And the rest of the stuffing, you can always just put that in the pan, put it in the oven, and let it cook that way. And just add them. I would mix them together before I serve it, unless you're cutting this nice and making little cute plates. So I left the skin part on up here because I feel it'd be a nice way to help keep all the contents in. So I have some butcher's twine here. I'm just going to tie some little sections. Slide that under. Probably even just slide that under yourself before you even fill up the stuffing in that. So I'm just going to tie 2 simple knots. And we can get that, keep it together. When I put it into the oven, I'm going to flip it the other way, just so it looks pretty with the turkey breast side up, with the skin up, actually. 2. And this is just like regular butcher's twine. And you want to pull it not too hard, but so. I have a piece of parchment paper. I'm going to take a parchment paper and line that. I kind of do that with everything. It really helps save your pans, save you some time scrubbing pans after. I'm going to take this guy and then flip it over. And I really want to touch it on there. And here's our stuffed turkey breast. Move that towards the center a little more. So traditionally with a Hasselback, you would take something like a breast, slice it, and stuff all the pieces inside. I'm going about this a little bit different. So I figure when it's like this, it's nice tight. I'm going to do slices in the meat, and then so while it bakes, it's going to open up a little bit and nice and pretty. I want to make sure the skin. I like the turkey skin. You can take it off if you'd like. I just think it'll help make a nice juicy product, and the crisp turkey skin always looks really nice as well. And we're going to take more of our spice rub and get that all over the top. There. So I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to cut some slices into it, and then that'll make it our Hasselback. You can pound this out if you'd like, the breast and stuff. You want to get it nice and flat to make the meat all nice and evenly portioned for when you slice it later. Actually, this will look nicer. It'll look even more Hasselback this way. So you can do this for Thanksgiving with a regular traditional stuffing that you would serve for a Thanksgiving dinner. It would definitely do that great for, say, if you're only cooking for like maybe 3 or 4 people and you don't want to take on making a whole turkey. So I got some of that in there. And I'll just use a little bit of this mix. I'm going to cook this in the oven. It's going to take probably about an hour. because you want to make sure that it's all cooked through, because there is raw egg on the stuffing, so you have to make sure the temperature does come up enough. You want to put in a thermometer, and I'll double check it because I didn't for like poultry, but I believe it's around 167. And so I'm going to go put this in the oven, and we'll come back when it's ready. Hi, we're back, and this is the turkey breast. So see that nice color on there. I took it out of the oven about 15 minutes ago, so it is cooled down quite a bit. I'm actually really happy. It feels fairly solid in there, the stuffing. We'll see if I can get some nice slices of it. That would be really nice, but if I don't, it's okay. It'll still taste good. But the aromatics and using a similar to a barbecue rub, I'm really happy with how that's turned out. It's just extremely fragrant. Okay, so I'm gonna try and find my little twines here. I'll cut this one off anyway. We'll see how we can get this off. So that always comes out nice and clean. Make sure if you have an animal, hide those good in your garbage. My dog likes to dig them out. And be extra gentle cutting these here. See if we can get some nice slices. Take it really easy. A serrated knife, I'm thinking probably might have been a better idea, but we'll get the job done here. And I just prepared some fiddleheads here. They're in season right now in our area. The seasoning that I put on this was a wild onion and a wild ranch salt, kind of mixed together because I wanted the oniony and garlicness. Okay, so now I have the finished plate that we did here. So I have the fiddleheads on there. I actually took some, there's some more ramp bulbs that I pickled, and this is a hibiscus pepper pickling that I did solution. And so I have that on here, and I took a little bit of that extra vinegar and put it over the dish. One thing that's a little different between like cooks and chefs is that when we're doing the recipe development, you have to think of all of not just your senses, but those tastes, right? Is it salty enough? Is it sweet enough? Is it acidic enough? And seeing as I use the barbecue flavors for the turkey, the outside of the turkey for the rub, I think that vinegar will be a nice contrast to go with that. Because you see a lot of like vinegar-based barbecue sauces and things like that. So thank you, Davidson College, for asking me to do this demo for you. I look forward to our little Q&A right now, and I hope some of you definitely try this at home. Ona.
Thank you so much, Chef Tawnya. That was amazing. It was just, I can almost smell it through the video right now.
I was really happy with how it came out, because it definitely didn't have a Thanksgiving flavor, and I had a few people try it to make sure that was they felt the same way I did.
Well, if you ever need any other tasters, you have my address. Send it right down. So let's start with a couple of questions about some of the ingredients you used yourself. Something that many of our viewers may not be familiar with is nixtamalization, right? With the corn. So what is that process and why do you do it?
Okay, so nixtamalization is the scientific term, I guess you would say. In Haudenosaunee territory, we refer to it as lied corn or washed corn. And what that means is we take, because the corn once it's dried, has that hard outer shell on it, you need something to permeate that in order to make it digestible. Otherwise, it'll come out the same way it went in. So what they do is they soak the corn, we boil it in an alkaline solution. So to make that alkaline solution, we use wood ashes from hardwood trees. And we take those ashes, put it into the water with the corn. And what happens is an immediate reaction, whatever corn you're using, like white corn, any corn anyway, it'll turn a bright orange, like the color of a pumpkin. And it's a pretty cool thing to see because it doesn't happen right away. So after about, say, 45 minutes to an hour of boiling in that solution, you'll start to see they get kind of slimy. And what it is that outer hull breaking down. And once that outer hull, most people, they'll boil it for that long, rinse it, boil it, rinse it, boil it. They'll do it about 3 or 4 times in this process over a course of a few hours. I ain't got time for all that. So I do it one time. So what I do is once those, the hulls I think are getting good, I turn my stove off and I just let it, I'll do it at night and just leave it and let it sit there till morning. So the reason why I do that, and my mom's had a corn geneticist confirm this for me.
Mhm.
The ashes, all of the minerals and vitamins, all those things that are in the ashes permeate the corn. So if we rinse the corn too soon as the hull breaks off, none of that extra nutrition is going to go into the corn.
Right.
But it does give you like niacin and like, I don't know, all these B vitamins and all of these other things, and it ups the amount of calcium in the corn as well. So for us as Indigenous people, we didn't drink milk or like cow's milk.
Right.
So our lied corn is where we got our calcium from.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were to take a cup of milk and a cup of lied corn, this is going to actually, the corn's going to have twice as much calcium in it as dairy. So we had no issues with osteoporosis or anything like that. So, and that's also what we fed to our babies as well. We kind of did a mixture with that, nuts and nut milk, that kind of thing, to make like formulas for babies. And
Right.
black walnuts are one of the big things we use because they're it's a brain food, right?
Oh yeah.
High in omegas and things like that. So our babies did really have good nutritional food to eat at that time. So yeah, once I let that sit on my stove overnight, the next morning I'll rinse it all off and I'll bring it up to a boil again just to get it to the point that I want it to be at. Because once it's done boiling and that stuff and we rinse it out, you can stop right there. So if you want to preserve it, you can dehydrate it and rehydrate it another time, or you can grind it up right away at that process, and that's what's going to give you fresh masa. So if you want to make like tortillas, beef bread, anything out of it, you would do it at that stage. Or you can continue to boil it and it blooms. I said it's like making popcorn underwater, right? It blooms and it gets big. If you're not familiar with our corn, if you've ever had like a pozole or anything like that, it has these big pieces of white corn in it. That's what happens to the corn. So, or hominy, right? Hominy is another common name for it. So yeah, so that's why we do that nixtamalization process. So that was a process that didn't go to Europe because
Right.
they know how to do everything themselves, but that's why people died, because they didn't get any nutrition from it, because so much of that nutrition comes from the ashes and not necessarily from the corn itself.
Absolutely. And for those who are in Southern Studies listening, for the Southern Studies students, this is why in the early 20th century South, there was such an issue with pellagra being based on what was called the 3M diet, meat, meal, and molasses, was because they were not using this nixtamalization process and therefore were lacking in niacin. So that is not a problem that Indigenous people here have had, because we had this process for so long. Okay, I have a couple, let's see, I'm getting a couple questions in. What kind of beans were you using?
Those were just white pea beans. They're a common bean just available in grocery stores here. I didn't have any, it's our planting season, so I wasn't willing to take, because a lot of people don't understand that it's like, I can't just go to a store and buy traditional Haudenosaunee beans, right? We have to grow them. And a lot of times that growth is just for seed, and it's a lot of work, and it just goes to seed, because you think, how many plants do you need to just fill up a little Ziploc bag? So that's something I really encourage producers, if they're like, oh, what do you want us to make? Like, make beans, right? Any kind of beans, just grow beans. So because that's the hardest thing right now for us to get. It's even harder than getting corn, is to get beans in our traditional bean varieties. My mom right now grows, we grew 22 varieties of beans last year. So as awesome as that is, the unfortunate thing is that we don't get a huge yield to the point where, say, I could use it in my catering. So that's one of the harder things. There's other beans. I know there's like Ramona farms and things in the US where you can get them. I tend not to, nothing against those beans. It's just they're not from my area, and I try to focus on Haudenosaunee foods. And I try to avoid like I don't want to sound Debbie Downer about it, but that pan-Indianism. Right. And that's what's happening to our food, where we're losing those individual food cultures from our people, because we're putting everything together all the time. And not that there's anything wrong with that, because that's what we have to do anyways, because the food supply just isn't there, right? It's not realistic for business, even, like, let alone people eating at home. So but I do, that's why I try to focus on Haudenosaunee foods, because I feel like we were all given teachings and lessons on all of those individual foods, and that's what makes those foods special to our people. And if we start just, oh, this is the whatever story, well, but what is our story, right? And I want to avoid that pan-Indianism, because we are 500 individual different tribes and nations here, and I don't want especially non-native people to look at us like, oh, we're all the same thing, because we're not. As just as much as they're not the same thing, we aren't either. So that's one of the reasons why I focused on our foods in this area.
Yeah, that is exactly true. And I think you really hit the nail on the head with the issue of the supply chain, right? So we are reclaiming these foods now and growing these foods. But as you said, growing these in the bulk needed to not only feed our communities. So first we have to feed our communities, but then also to have thriving businesses where we're able to put this food out there requires quite a bit of investment. And although I do absolutely think that this is something that we will be able to do in the future, at this very moment, we're still building up and reclaiming this ability to feed so many people, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard to give away your stuff, right? It's hard for us to give away our seed and give it to, say, a non-Indigenous producer. And, we don't know how that's out of our control at that point. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if pesticides are going to be in there. We don't know if it's going to be genetically modified. We don't know if it's going to be stolen, right? So it's really hard for our people. It's just this, it's issues coming at us from every direction, but they're issues we have to face, because we want our people, and we want our kids especially, to have this food and to grow up on this food and to be familiar with it. I was luckily brought up in a family where we did always garden, and Haudenosaunee people are agricultural people. That's something that makes our people a little different than most nations in this area, because there's a lot of like hunter-gatherer type people. So like to be agricultural is actually pretty different for this area. So it's definitely a huge issue for Haudenosaunee people, sharing our seed and losing that control of our food systems. But at the same time, we do need to face that and face the reality that we don't have the means right now to take that on. Like every day we're getting more. In my area, it's all tobacco. People just want to grow tobacco because that's where the money's at. So now we're in the process of trying to encourage local farmers to grow our Indigenous foods for our communities, and see the value in doing that.
Do you think, and we'll move to this topic before we come back to it, you've got a few more questions in the chat that I'll come back to. But related to that, how do you feel that the current global pandemic has impacted people's interest in gardening and growing foods as opposed to cash crops like tobacco, like cannabis? Do you think it's had an impact at all?
Oh, I think it's had a huge impact. The biggest impact being people growing at home, right? Having the time to sit down and say, you know what, I'm going to do that garden I've been trying to do for the last 10 years. And, you know, I'm going to be able to sit in that garden and see those and nurture those plants to grow and give them the love that they deserve. When normally we don't have the time, and some people, they plant every season, but they just let it get away from them because they just don't have the time to man it. Right. And so with that being said, it's an amazing time right now to know that all of these families right now are growing for the first time. Like I've been trying to encourage young families to grow, like because they always want to. We always want to do the best for our kids, right?
Right. Right.
And we want them to grow up traditional. We want them to know their lessons. We want them to know their foods. So for, I'd say, probably about the last 3 or 4 years, my mom's really been trying to start a co-op down here where we can plan and grow together. You grow this at your house, we look at the area, what's best to grow it there. And we would share that crop at the end of the season. Unfortunately, like, you get a ton of interest, but, people having the time to show up and actually have that happen and has been really difficult. So, but this year, just with the pandemic happening, it's really brought us back to our roots and said, you know what, I have time to do this. and just really remind people that it's not that big of an effort, right? It is initially on planting days, but in between that, in between planting and harvesting, you know, you're looking at a couple of days work in reality. And it's nice to encourage that I don't see this pandemic as a bad thing for our people. I've seen it as a positive thing for our people. Like, I know it's unfortunate, it's an unfortunate illness, and everybody's dealing with this illness, but traditionally, I think it's really helped revive a lot of like foodstuffs, food cultures in our people, even if it's just people that don't have the food at home to eat right now because they're, you know, they don't have money. They're going back to their traditional foods, and they're looking at all of that stuff, right? They're looking, people even in the desert are getting back to their traditional food system. So it's really amazing to see that. And I don't think that definitely wouldn't have been happening if this pandemic hadn't happened. So I'm trying to look at it as a positive that, like, I mean, even my business is taken a bit of a hit. Not really, like, I'm still doing lunches for factories and things that don't want to bring food in, or their companies going out and stuff. So I've been doing okay, but it's definitely hit a lot of colleagues really hard.
Yeah, it's been a difficult time, especially with the supply chain being disrupted. But I'm glad to hear that you're hanging in there. Hopefully all your family's doing well too.
Yeah, I had to do a lunch today for a factory before I got here. Amongst the other things I told you, it was my exciting day, so I've been kind of rushing around.
Hey, that is how many people did you need to serve?
It was only like 15 today, but it was still done.
One turkey. That's pretty big.
I should have cooked the rest of the turkey for them.
Okay, so we have a couple of questions about the dish today. There's a couple of pickling questions. Now, I'm, to everyone's dismay around me, most interested in ramps. I love ramps. I love them so much. That ramp salt was new to me, and now I know what I need to do. I need to fry me up some ramps and make some ramp salt. And I loved the idea of the ramp bulbs with the sweetgrass. I've never seen that combination before, and I can imagine how fragrant that is. But we do have a question about the hibiscus, and one of the viewers wants to know if you'd be willing to share how you put that together.
Yeah, sure. So the first time I did it, I had an abundance of ramps, which usually doesn't really happen for me. So I wanted to make sure I utilized them a few ways that I had been wanting to. The ramp salt, I'll just touch on that. I dehydrated them and I removed the bulbs. I've dehydrated the bulbs before. You have to take them apart anyways, kind of cut the stems off because the leaves, the stem, and the bulbs all dehydrate at different times. So I decided to keep the bulbs, and I know how to pickle these. I haven't done that yet. So I just use a typical pickling solution, which is, I think it's 2 parts vinegar, 1 part water, got them warm, and you just pour that over top of the ramps. That's all you really have to do for that. I put a little bit of salt in there and some peppercorns. The hibiscus, I just threw a couple of hibiscus leaves in there. I got those I was in Georgia in November and at this farm for a boucherie, and they had the flowers are beautiful. They're in season. They're like, pick all you want. We already got everything we need, right? So I was like a kid in a candy store, and we got a bunch of those, and so I was happy to be able to use some of those leaves for that because I wanted to see. I knew it was going to make it a pretty color, so I wanted to see what the ramps are going to look like. So I was really happy with how those came out. So yeah, I just threw maybe about 3 or 4 leaves in the little jar that I did there, and it was the same solution. I did 3 different kinds. I put hibiscus in one, and then I just shoved pieces of sweetgrass in the other, and the other I just did a plain because I just wanted like the ramp flavor. And yeah, they came out great. I was really happy with them. The hibiscus, I was really happy with just that vibrant red that it came out. So that it made them really pretty, and it has its own little florally flavor, I guess you would say, to it. But yeah, I just I'm not a big fan myself of like pestos made with ramps because they're a strong plant, right? They're
powerful. That's a powerful.
Like you're gonna burp it up for 3 days after and kind of smell like it. And so I try to, I wanted to tone it down. But I mean, it's perfect for a seasoning. And a lot of plants that are like that, if they're really like pungent flavors, they're usually like really good in rubs and stuff. So it's a good idea that and that's just our preservation methods of drying stuff is is practicing that too.
Yeah. And so we have the ramp salt, but you also used pinyon salt. And how did you do? Is that pinyon ash? How did you go about that?
That's a smoked pinon salt. I didn't make that one personally. That was from Sakari Farms. So that's Spring Alaska's company. She makes that. And actually the sweetgrass was from her too. She's a pretty good friend of mine now. They've known her for a couple of years and get ingredients from her. So I'm always really excited when she's like, I got some stuff for you. So I'm always like, send it. So it's like I'm like a kid in a candy store when I get that. So but yeah, she made that, and it is a smoked salt. But if you want to smoke a salt, it's the same like if you have a smoker, you would just put like a sheet pan in there, put the salt in there, and just smoke it like you would meat, and it'll permeate that flavor.
Oh. Yeah, I need to get a smoker. I clearly need.
They're fun.
Let's see. One other question we have from the chat is what the difference is between a wild turkey and a domestic turkey, as far as the eating, the tasting difference. Is there any preparation difference?
One won't attack you. No, I'm kidding.
The important thing is one will attack you.
Yeah. Well, they domesticated turkeys like a couple thousand years ago in Mexico. But yeah, we still just hunt them. I don't notice there's a slight flavor difference. More than likely it's their diet that would make that difference, like in flavor, the same way you would get, say, a commercially done chicken or like, organic, free ranged, all that stuff chicken. There you get a slight taste variance. And you'll get that between buying a commercial turkey or buying a domesticated or wild turkey, sorry. But yeah, no, they pretty much taste the same and cook up the same, and it's all good.
So I'm going to move over and just give our recipe questions just a break for just a minute to ask a little bit about how you became a chef. So you grew up with the foods, but you started working pretty early, and even more impressive, after working at age 12, you continued to work in the restaurant industry. So what inspired you to go into the restaurant industry, and what continues to inspire you to stay with this? Because this is a very difficult job, right?
Yeah, definitely not any and everybody can be a chef. That's definitely not true for a lot of people, and they find that out. It's unfortunate. Some go to college and first day on the job, this ain't me, this ain't for me. But yeah, I was 12. I started babysitting the same year, so I just wanted to make some money because I don't like asking people for money. So when I was younger, that's if I wanted new shoes or if I wanted something, I just I'd work for it. I had no problem with that. My mom's a school teacher, so she was always made sure that we were really independent. Sorry, not dependent, independent. And if you wanted something, you went for it, right? And I actually thank her for that, because one of the things that when I started working around that age, it was like I wanted my first pair of Nikes.
Yeah.
Everybody else had Nike shoes, and they were like $100. And she's like, you get like $30 for shoes. Nobody needs $100. No kid needs $100 for shoes, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of got me started. Well, if you want it, work for it, right? And that was exactly what I did. And my dad goes to a lot of the restaurants around here, and he knows everybody, the owners and everything, because he goes to all of them. And he was the one that was just kind of like, oh, they're looking for waitresses, and so my dad was the one that got me the job, and I just showed up and tried to do my best. Yeah. So I started waitressing was what I did, and I'd say within like the summer, and I kind of thank the owner at the time for that, because she was just like, just go to the kitchen. Obviously that's where you want to be. I remember her saying that to me one day. Just go back there. You're always back there doing stuff. And I think something that started my real love back there, and is still like just absolutely interested in today, is just the equipment.
Yeah.
Industrial equipment. I don't know what it is. And that's something really common you'll find amongst chefs. They're just like, they love knives. They love convection ovens. You won't see anybody get so happy to be like, did you see that vent? Like, just like, you know how much money that thing is? Like, So when you see chefs just looking at a kitchen, you see how excited they get. And that was definitely somewhere that really that stuck with me. So throughout the rest of high school, every job I had ended up being kind of food service, but being on reserve, it was kind of far. Like I wasn't about to go get like a fast food job or something like that because they were kind of far and I didn't want, my parents to have to pick me up or anything like that. So I started driving at 13 so I could drive to work. So I did that. And my other jobs in high school and stuff, they were all like food. Like I was at the bingo hall, but the concession stand, the arena, but the concession stand, like those kind of jobs. Then I got done high school and I went to Trent University first for, I wanted to be an archaeologist. My mom even had this little paper from when I was little, from second grade. And it was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it said an archaeologist or a chef. And we found it years later. And I was like, oh my God, I did both, right? But so I did. I went for university for that year, and it wasn't for me, right? Like it wasn't. I don't know. It just wasn't for me. I was really good at like the social anthropology and stuff. Like I found that interesting, but at the same time, I was kind of like, I looked around me and some of the TAs and stuff. They were like, like pushing 40, talking about getting their first job, and I was like, here by then, thanks. so I found out, I was like, I just want to work, man. And then I had people encourage me, like I always thought about it, and I really had to ask my family because we didn't go to college, we go to university, my family, and in the US it's kind of the same thing, but in Canada it's very different. Colleges for technical stuff and universities for like, if you want to be like a teacher or a lawyer or those kind of things.
Right.
So because I know even like I had just my mom and stuff and just being like, what do you mean you want to go to college? Right. So I had to get through that hump as well. And they were kind of like, fine, if you want to waste your time, but it ended up being something I really enjoyed and I really wanted to be there. And it's just a love that hasn't gone away because I love being in the kitchen. I miss it when I'm not in there. And I really enjoy being around food. And just as much as being around food, I like the camaraderie and the people that I've met and the people I get to work with and seeing how they improve. Because one of the jobs I used to do was to open some prime restaurants and it was just to train it. My favorite things is take a bunch of little, punk teenage boys that are just nothing but troublemakers, and make them awesome workers because you see how much pride they have. And it's like, man, I can kill this line. I can do this stuff myself. You don't need to be here. And when I do that, my job is done, right? When I'm being able to give somebody that confidence in what they're doing and then be able to go on and take the reins for themselves and see how much pride they have when they're like, man, we got swamped, but we did it, right? And I'm just like, it's just food, calm down, relax. Like that's a strength of mine in the kitchen, is being able to maintain, a non-chaotic situation. And that's not something everybody can do. So that's something that I pride myself in.
So when you're training these young students, what advice do you give them about whether they should or shouldn't go into the industry, or what kind of training they should pursue for this, or just advice in general about going into the restaurant industry as a whole?
Well, I'm definitely honest, right? Honest with them and tell them, you got to be a hustler. You got to want to work hard. You got to want it. Like if you want to make a go at this career, you really have to be able to sell yourself, right? And you have to be confident in your own ability, because every job you go to, that's what they're going to ask you. Right? You are going to get paid based on how good it was you sold yourself to that owner to say, I can make this, I want this much, and I'm going to earn it. Right? And I'm not going to make you regret paying whatever amount for me. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck behind the line making minimum wage the rest of your life if you don't ask questions and if you don't ask for more. But at the same time, you have to back that up, right? You have to back that up and show that you're worth what it is that they're giving you. Like for me, leaving a restaurant, I've had 4 restaurants tell me that they've needed 3 people to replace me when I leave a restaurant. And I tell them that when I'm leaving, I'm like, just so you know, this is going to cost you some money. You might think you're paying me more, but it's going to cost more to pay 3 people, right? So being able to do that, like that's what I tell kids. But then at the same time, if they have that love, I'll tell them like going to culinary school is the greatest thing I've ever done for myself, and I would never regret it. And but you have to really love it and want to be there, because even in college, I was doing 80 hours a week, right? So,
Oh yeah.
here. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Like I said, I'm in a store, so my sister just got back.
Welcome. She can join us as well. We're very welcoming here.
She's got her computer beside me. She can do that.
Let's see, we have a couple of questions that have popped up. Let me take a look. We have one question on Haudenosaunee comfort food. What is a comfort food, a traditional Haudenosaunee comfort food for you? And then let's see. And then I'll follow up with a couple of questions. We'll start with that one.
Well, I would say the most like Haudenosaunee comfort food for me would just be our corn soup.
Yeah.
That's one thing that never really got lost, I guess you would say. So it's something that everybody still eats, and I'm thankful for it, because our kids still know that flavor. They know how to eat our light corn and not think, oh, this is weird. And I just, the taste and everything tastes like memories. And I'd say that would be my biggest comfort food for Haudenosaunee food, definitely.
That sounds pretty comforting already. Right. Let's see. Another question. Do you have advice for non-Native people who would like to support Indigenous food sovereignty movement? And because this is going out to a lot of Davidson folks and college folks as well, those particularly at institutions like colleges and universities. So maybe what students can do, what faculty can do to support the Indigenous food sovereignty movement.
I see this question a lot, and I always kind of find it funny. Like any other business, buy their product, right? Just,
and I think,
but that's the biggest way. Like if their business, it's the only way their business is going to grow. It's the only way they're going to get their message out. It's the only way that you're really truly going to be able to support them, which is to be supporting them in what it is that they're doing, and purchasing their product is the easiest way. Like I see a lot of companies doing like, GoFundMe's and things like that. And it's like, but at the end of the day, if people just buy their product, it's doing the same thing for those companies, right? So yeah, like that's what I always say. Like you don't really have to go out of your way and treat an Indigenous business different than any other business. It's just support them in the same way.
Yep, and that actually goes right into our next question, which is, do you have any First Nations or American Indian businesses that you recommend? Or that people who are not in the restaurant industry, so something that's not just wholesale, can access?
For the US, I'd concentrate on that because I know Davidson's in the US. I'm in Canada here. Sakari Farms is definitely one of the biggest places I like to support. The owner's awesome, and she just grows so many different things, and she does make a lot of products now. So she's getting into some things like vinegars and like you've seen the salt. So she does a lot of rubs and salt. She does this, she just gave me this green smoke poblano, like it's pulverized, I guess. And it's just like, the smell is amazing. So I definitely love Sakari Farms. Who else? The other one, Zebra Wing Farms, they do maple products. They're in Michigan. They're maple sugar and things like that, and they're doing it with enough production that they're going to farmers markets. They do fresh foods as well, which maybe that's more accessible in the US, but I definitely go for their maple products and those types of things. I had mentioned Ramona Farms earlier. They're in the Southwest, and they do like the tapery beans and the white and brown, and I'm trying to think of some other companies. But there are a ton out there. I would recommend too, maybe looking at the Native American Food Sovereignty Alliance or the Intertribal Agriculture Council, because they definitely promote all of those businesses as well.
And we have we have both those links up right now, and we will go ahead and post links to the farms in our resources page. So for our audience, if you go to our website and look under the About page and then under resources, you'll find a couple of these links, and then we'll go ahead and put the links to the other farms up underneath those as well. And I know we're kind of getting to the end of our time, so I'll leave with one question. In the video, you said that some of your ingredients that you find behind your house, and they want to know, what do you find behind your house to cook with?
So what do I have behind my house? Nettle. I got a nice little stinging nettle bush that's growing now. So I've been I really like it because it seems like more that I've learned to identify stuff in my backyard, it just jumps out at you now, right? And you can see it. And maybe it's from harvesting that's helping it flourish more. So I have choke cherry bushes that are growing. One's right in front of my house, my driveway. I actually didn't even know it was a choke cherry bush, and I've lived in my house for 9 years. So, and I didn't know, and it was because of the gypsy moth problem that's in my area. They were always on there, and I was always kind of like, I don't go near that bush. There's always stuff on it. So one day I got mad and I took it all off, made sure there was nothing. Like I even went through like the year, and I was like, I see caterpillars. I took them off, and it had these nice, lovely flowers, and I'm like, there's stuff growing on it. There's berries. I've never seen berries grow on that before. It was a choke cherry bush. I had no idea. So now it's like I guard it, and I had to fight a robin last year. I had a robin by my house, and he was yelling at me for picking his berries. So I told him, I was like, no, I had to fight off caterpillars all summer long. These are my berries too. So just to be a jerk, I went in the house. When I went to go leave again, there was a big choke cherry bird crap right look out on my car window. And I said, he did that on purpose.
It's a negotiation.
You can't really fight those kind of things. Because where I live, at my house, daylight doesn't even touch the ground. It's all trees. It doesn't even touch my front porch. So there's a ton of flowers. There's always flowers. They're ever changing from like, they're already into the second change right now. So there's always edible, like violets, and spring beauty just got done. There's definitely there's tons of different flowers, and I love to use flowers because my name is a floral name is Gajijo, and it's floating lily. So I like to make things pretty, and I like to use flowers a lot. So I use those. Just dandelions, another really easy thing to pick and harvest. We tap the trees around my house every year. There's like maple syrup time, so I've done a lot of action around that time around my house. What else do I harvest? I don't know. There's a lot that goes on in the bush there. So and a lot of mushrooms and stuff grow around my house as well because the foliage.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I saw that jar of chanterelles, and it looked really good. The chanterelles won't be up for another, I think, month or so.
Yeah, well, those were from a gift, but they're definitely in the area.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you again so much for joining us. For our audience, all of the links to Chef Tanya's social media, her website, and just a whole bunch of phenomenal videos that she's done. If you have not seen her video on the different corns, I highly recommend it. So go up on her site, check out what she's doing, learn a lot more that we couldn't discuss in our short time here. And again, find more resources at our page as well. But Chef Tawnya, thank you so much. That's phenomenal. I'm going to go eat some dinner right now because it made me that hungry. And I hope that you can actually get a break too after your long day. And tell all your family we said hi. But thank you again so much. And good luck with all of your future endeavors too.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be a busy summer. I got some good news, so I'm looking forward to a really good projects coming up. It's pretty exciting, like scary exciting, but it'll happen in due time. And I really want to thank Davidson College for this. It was an absolute pleasure, and I like having a lot of questions. I got the gift of gab, so I always run out of time, it seems like, on these types of things.
That's good. That just means we'll have to have you back again. So
for sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yes, it was good meeting you.
It was good meeting you.